Unhinged is a terrible movie that I actually kind of enjoy. Don't get me wrong, the movie is awful, but all of the thrilling and horrific elements presented in this film actually come across as unintentionally hilarious. So I did enjoy how comically stupid everything felt, given how serious this movie was trying to be. The story is about a mother named Rachel who is having something of a bad day. But while Rachel is stuck in traffic, her day is about to get a whole hell of a lot worse because she honks her horn at the wrong guy. A mentally unstable man who just violently murdered his ex-wife and her new partner by setting their house on fire after beating them to death. So Rachel has to fend for her life as she experiences some extremely over-the-top road rage. And that's the best way I can describe this movie. Over the top. Unhinged wants to be taken seriously as it presents issues about domestic abuse and mental illness, but it just doesn't strike the right tone. I mean, I can see what the film was going for. Having a stranger turn into a violent stalker can be scary, but the horror of that concept lies in the execution. And the execution here is pretty bad. The acting is cheesy, the dialogue is awful, the characters are poorly written, the story is convoluted and filled with logistical issues, and the action scenes are overly violent for no reason. So even though Unhinged wants to present itself as a serious movie tackling serious matters, it just feels really silly. This is a silly and comically unrealistic film. So once the movie had ended, I was left perplexed. What was the point of this story? What were the filmmakers trying to tell me? That society is to blame for creating mentally unstable people? That no one really cares for each other anymore? That more people should be sincere and apologize more often? Again, this entire story kicks off with a woman honking her horn at a stranger and not being sorry for it. So is the movie trying to tell me that I shouldn't honk my horn at people? It certainly feels like that's what it's trying to tell me, but there are some real assholes out there and people who are just not paying attention while driving who deserve to be honked at. So I just don't agree with that message at all. The whole thing about mental illness isn't even explored much, so that might as well not even be in the movie. And I sometimes felt as though the film wanted me to feel bad for Russell Crowe's character for being a victim of circumstance or something. But nah, he's clearly an awful motherfucker. So even though I was on board with rooting for Rachel to overcome this man, I wasn't sure how I was supposed to feel. I wasn't thrilled or horrified in any way, so I couldn't help but laugh during certain scenes. And that's what I mean when I say I kind of enjoyed this movie. I laughed my ass off at all of the mayhem and carnage that this movie depicted. That's how silly and goofy it felt. Or maybe I just have a messed up sense of humor. I can't help it if I find Russell Crowe punching a kid in the face to be hilarious. There's some mind-numbing entertainment value in a shocking image like that, especially since the film has nothing profound to say anyway. So Unhinged is probably the best unintentional dark comedy that I've ever seen. But the key word here is unintentional. If the movie had just embraced its own silliness, it probably would have been a better film overall. Not too far in tone from something like Crawl. I mean, Russell Crowe mostly just grunts in this movie, so he might as well just be an alligator-like animal anyway. Or if the film had featured better acting with better dialogue and fleshed out characters in a story that didn't feel so convoluted and overly violent, then maybe I would have had an easier time taking the movie seriously. I just think the film struggled with finding the right tone. As if the filmmakers didn't know if the movie should be dark and thought-provoking or dark and funny. So the two different tones kind of clash with one another, resulting in a confusing and muddled experience. And for that, I would likely give Unhinged 2 3/4 out of 5 stars. Thanks for watching.